Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. It's time for the GEST Dota 2 Challenge. We are on day number 1 of action. Nobody will be eliminated today, but 2 teams will be sent down to the losers bracket. And this is, of course, a double elimination event. All matches are best out of 3 until the grand finals, which will be a best out of 5 with a 1-game advantage for whoever makes it there. Before we really dive into this draft, let us take a very quick look at our brackets, just so you all can get a sense of where things stand currently. Our first match was actually LGD International versus Orange. If you missed that one, I definitely recommend you check it out just because, well, it's the first time we've had an English cast of LGD International. It was a pretty interesting match, but it was also very one-sided. LGD International move forward to the winners bracket finals. They will face the winner of this match, LGD China. It's a lot of LGDs. I've seen people talking about the Africa division, the Russian division, the Mongolian squad. Everybody wants an LGD team to call their own. But whoever wins this series between LGD China and MUFC will move forward to the winners bracket finals. They'll face LGD International there. So we are looking at a possible LGD versus LGD fratricide. Well, I think that's the term anyway, but that's a possibility as we look forward to the winners bracket. After this best out of 3, that match will be played. So once this series concludes, stay tuned. We will have one more match today, and it will feature, no matter what, the team that everyone's really been looking to see. This is one of the most hyped up teams in a while. It's a team that we saw a little bit of earlier today in that LGD International squad. But enough about them. Let's talk about this match. LGD China, actually, the team that won the G1 League, that looked very impressive in doing so, but struggled a bit at WCG China. That was Dota 1. That was an older patch, but they got defeated by Tongfu in the finals, and Tongfu looked very convincing in doing so. So you got to wonder, is that mostly just because LGD wasn't really comfortable with Dota 1? From what I've heard, they were not practicing it as much as Tongfu. Of course, it's a different version. And they stuck with the same roles they had been using in Dota 2 in the new patch. So some arguments could be made. But basically, this is a team that looked very, very strong coming into this event, coming off of G1. In Dota 2, they have taken down everybody in Asia. Literally, I can't think of a team they haven't beaten over the past couple of months, from DK to IG. They've just looked so impressive. And, of course, a very complete team. But coming into this match, maybe a little bit shaken from WCG China. They did just get back. That's why this match was delayed a little bit. For anyone who was wondering, Xiao was sleeping. For what I understand, they got back pretty late. He was sleeping in, and that's why we had the matches switch. So for anyone who missed the earlier series, the VODs are already available on Twitch. You just have to page through the one big VOD for today. Godz will be making separated ones, and we'll be uploading those to YouTube. But I'm interested to see. On the other side, we have MUFC. MUFC is a team who, coming into this tournament, they've had some very good results as of late. They took down Orange, or they didn't take down Orange, but they made it to the grand finals of the GEST Dota 2 competition, the one prior to this. And they actually finished second. Orange took them out in the finals, but they looked pretty decent going into that match. Obviously, for those who haven't heard, they qualified for G League. They defeated Orange in that qualifier, so they've shown some good results. This is a team, however, that is undergoing a bit of a roster change. They will, at least for now, they won't be playing with Ken. They're going to have sorry, not HY. They're going to have X Freedom standing in. All these Zenith players really getting around, whether it's Ice, whether it's HY, or former Zenith players, I should say, or whether it's X Freedom. But yes, this is X Freedom standing in today for MUFC. There will not be a Ken in this game, so no Ken to look forward to. With all that being said, this draft well underway. As far as what we're seeing from both teams, Ban's picks pretty standard so far. I think the 2 picks that will really be most interesting for most, at least for me, the Nyx Assassin for MUFC. This is a hero they really like to run. When they pick the Nyx Assassin, I usually see them run it in a tri-lane, and we have the makings of a very scary tri-lane at that. Undying, Nyx Assassin, and Rubik. Tons of damage, tons of lockdown, great tower diving potential, just a very complete tri-lane in every aspect. And of course, the one thing these heroes desperately need, though, is levels. So if you run that tri-lane and it doesn't go well, you're pretty screwed because you need that Tombstone max. You're obviously going to level Decay in the tri-lane because it's the best ability to have leveled up. But if the tri-lane fails or falls apart, then you're left with a max or a highly leveled Decay that really doesn't do that much in the mid-game clashes. So we'll see how they choose to lane it, but it looks like a tri-lane for them. The Shadow Fiend going to be one of their solos. I believe it will be Ohaiyo handling that. He normally does play the Shadow Fiend for MUFC nowadays. And the other interesting question coming out of this game for MUFC is, how are the roles going to shift? Because they're not playing with Ken anymore. He was either usually the one position player for the team. Occasionally we saw him and ohaiyo sort of swap roles depending on the heroes. For example, with the Shadow Fiend in this game, whatever Ken played would probably be the 2, and Shadow Fiend would be the 1, even though he's going solo mid. But with all that being said, how does xFreedom fit into the puzzle for this team? He played support for Zenith. He played the jungling role. But of course, MUFC already is a very experienced Asian jungler of their own in lane. They haven't gone for a jungler this game, so I'm thinking he'll be on support. And then that begs the question, who's going to be thrust into more of a farmy role for this team? Who's going to be playing a higher impact hero? I'm guessing it will be Ling. We've seen him play the jungle lifestealer before for this team, even when they had Ken on the roster. So he's played that role from time to time. I'm guessing he'll be on the Slardar, ohaiyo on the Shadow Fiend. As for the other 3, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's Net who plays the Nyx Assassin. And that would leave probably the Rubik for xFreedom. Either way, it's going to be interesting. It looks like I'm actually not sure if they're going to offensive tri-lane now. Slardar's not a good matchup 1v1 versus whatever's going to that suicide lane. Obviously, the Darkseer, it could be a solo mid. We've seen Xiao8 run it that way. But, yeah, so Sven is the pick for LGD. Interesting choice from them. They are going for some very aggressive heroes in the mid game. A lot of level dependent heroes of their own. This is a death ball. If MUFC have a bad start, or if LGD gets ahead or even just hangs onto their towers, they're not going to be able to fight mid game without a big advantage. Sure, Undying is fantastic in the lane stage, but he definitely falls off later on. You've got a lot of physical damage with the Sven, with the Lone Druid, quickly to bring down the Tombstone. I like the draft from LGD, and they actually have a pretty strong lineup to counter aggression in the laning stage. They've got Warcry, they've got some great AoE stuns, they've got Edict, which is always something that is going to discourage you from diving a tower. So I think LGD has drafted really well to punish any sort of early laning aggression from MUFC. And if you're not tri-laning as MUFC, what are you doing exactly? LGD is such a good lineup if you let them sit back and farm. So with all that being said, we'll analyze the matchup a little bit more, but before we do, let's introduce the players. DDC going to be handling that Leshrac. Hobie headed towards the bottom lane. Early Smoke of Deceit already picked up Yao on the Darkseer. He has been playing the off lane, the 3 role for LGD. He did so even in Dota 1 at WCG in the old patch, where previously at the International he was playing the 2. It's actually a solo mid Sylar. This is one of the very few heroes on times. One of the very few situations you'll ever see him do anything but farm the safe lane. He's going to be going solo mid as the Lone Druid. I think they're expecting the Shadow Fiend 1v1, and they just want to get, pick, that's a great lane to have the Lone Druid in, because he can win that matchup 1v1. He's got a lot more last hitting power. He's very strong in lane, and he can keep Shadow Fiend down. Both those heroes want to farm, but Lone Druid is generally going to have a pretty good time of it, so I think that's what they're expecting. Xiao8 on the Sven. Not playing solo mid. That is very curious, but a farming Sven for Xiao8. DDC. Already introduced him. He's on the track. Last but not least, it's DD or SC on the Jakiro. On the side of MUFC, we have Ling with the early Quelling Blade. Lots of mid pull is going to come out for him. He's playing the Rubik, so not going to be playing that carry role. We have an off lane, a suicide lane Undying. Well, they're throwing him to the wolves. I guess that's the laning decision. It looks to be a Slardar mid. He'll be supported, of course, by that Rubik. This actually could work out. They might be able to get a first blood on Sylar if they get the pulls right, if they get the timing right to come in for the gank. But it all comes down to Sylar's positioning. But with Telekinesis and Slither and Crush and Sprint, once they hit level 3 or 4, they may be able to set up a kill. So I like that. Net on the bottom lane, he'll be playing the Nyx Assassin. And last but not least, it is ohaiyo on the Shadow Fiend. Well, Sylar's going to have a good time mid unless Rubik comes in the suicide lane for MUFC. Undying not having a great time, but as he spams Decay, the matchup gets a little bit trickier. Tri-lane versus Undying, it can be a lane where Undying has a good time, but this is not the kind of lane where he will. There's too many stuns, there's too much burst damage, and with the lane ward already being placed, he's going to be kept out of lane quite handily. This was the weakness of their draft. They had a really strong tri-lane with the Undying, but it wasn't really... The way that LGD responded with their picks just didn't leave many openings to go aggressive tri-lane. And then you're left with a lineup that doesn't have a great offlaner. Undying can be a great offlaner, but it's a very situational one, I feel. We'll see how it pans out. He is doing some pulling off the bat, but again, has to be very careful. He can pull, but if he ever gets caught by a stun, If one hits, the rest will follow, and he will die. This is not a lineup where it's hard to set up your combo. You've got Ice Path, very easy to land. Of course, Stormbolt, very easy to land as well. So I gotta say, off the bat, I give LGD. I gotta say, they're gonna have a pretty good time at these lanes. The off-lane Darkseer, there's really nothing to shut him down. Nyx Assassin is annoying, but he's not killing you. Shadow Fiend, even if he hits 2 raises, he's not gonna kill you off early on. So Darkseer is gonna get levels, he's gonna get farm. Whereas Undying is not. That's going to be a big advantage off the bat for LGD. I'm really interested that Xiaohui's playing this farming Sven. I guess it's just, you know, when you pick the lone druid, it's Sylar's hero, so he plays it. Even though it puts Xiaohui in a lane where he can't really have as much of a mid-game impact. Unless he moves, unless he leaves the lane. Of course, they can leave Leshrac here to farm. So I expect that's what we'll see. I don't think Xiaohui's just going to sit and farm and stack camps all day long. I say that, it's entirely possible. It is a great strategy on Sven. We see that and DreamHack in a lot of our European tournaments. Of course, this is game 1, for everyone who's wondering exactly what the format is. The entire tournament is double elimination, and it's best out of 3s all the way through until the Grand Finals. Grand Finals is best out of 5 with a 1-game advantage to your winner bracket champion. So this is only game 1. Whoever loses this will have a shot to come back. It will be hopefully 3 games, at least 2. And after this match, we have LGD International playing the winner of this best out of 3 and another best out of 3. That'll be your winner bracket final. So if you missed LGD International's debut on Beyond the Summit in the GEST Dota 2 Challenge, you'll get a chance to catch up and see how they're doing later on. Off the bat, ohaiyo is having a fantastic time in this bottom lane. Already hitting level 4, has 21 CS, out-farming Xiaohui by quite a bit, and a lot of that comes down to the pulls done by the Undying, just trying to deny some experience, as well as the fact that these supports are doing a lot of pulls. So he's last hitting under the tower. It's making life a little bit trickier for him. He is leading in terms of net worth, only by a slight amount. Slardar is close behind. MUFC having a good time with their 2 farmers in the safe lane and the mid lane. The one real issue, though, is the Undying. Still level 1, a hero that doesn't need the most farm, but is very level dependent. So it looked like a matchup that he wasn't going to get anything out of. That's what I expected, and that's what we're seeing so far. Are the trade-offs good enough? Maybe. It's not clear that they are, but it's possible it could work out. He's going to start stacking the neutrals now. The problem is they don't... Oh, no, really? Solo kills the Darkseer. Oh, man. This is where I need instant replay. That is just very impressive play by ohaiyo. Well, I said Darkseer should be fine in this lane, but if ohaiyo is playing like Yafits, then I suppose not. Gets the kill with no setup from the Nyx Assassin. He was all the way towards the rune, not even involved. That is not a kill you see very often. For me, that's reason enough to go back and watch the replay. By the way, this tournament is brought to you by Dota Talk. They are your hosts for the tournament. Of course, the tournament made possible by Gigabyte Esports, by the GEST. So be sure to support them. The ticket's very affordable, and if you want to buy it, you get access to not just the GEST challenge matches, which I think alone are worth the price. I think it's like $3, so it's not really that expensive. But you also get everything from GEST Dota 2, which had some great matches, mainly the grand finals between Orange and MUFC. So I highly recommend checking that out. Support Dota Talk, support GEST, support your Asian Dota. Middle lane, it will be a bit of a dive onto Sylar. Looks like our Slardar wanted to go, but not quite able to get in range. Now Sylar hits level 5, and the Entangle almost finding a kill on Ling. Oh boy, Ling will salve up. He will survive. This is that Sylar lone druid, though. This is the power of that solo mid lone druid. If you don't have just amazing gap closing, then if he gets an Entangle, if he harasses you down before you jump in, he just does so much damage. He isn't farming as well as you would like to see out of Sylar, but he's not really expected to get that much farm. He's here just to control the lane, get a fast level 6, and then just be a constant pushing threat in the middle lane. So, as far as experience goes, it is a bit of a lead for MUFC. Seems like that's coming mostly from that bottom lane, getting the first blood on the Shadow Feed. Because it's a solo Darkseer who was not shut down early, he gets a lot of experience for that. That and the mid pull is also working in their favor. Undying does hit level 2, so he gets something, but you compare that to the Darkseer, and this is just not a whole lot to work with. Also, because he's under-leveled, it's just going to be so easy in the mid-game for Sven to muscle down that tombstone and just kill it off very quickly. So I'm not convinced about this offlane Undying yet. We'll see how it develops, but so far, just hasn't done a whole lot. is stacking the Ancients, which I suppose is something. Again, they don't have the best lamp to build it, though, but they will try to go in on Sylar. Where's that entangle when they need it? Oh, he doesn't even get a rage for the Slither and Crush. Tranquil Boots, too good. So as far as item progression goes, really not a whole lot at the moment. Oh boy. Are we seeing any entangles mid? No, we're not. You know, something interesting we saw in that DK series versus MUFC, not versus MUFC, but when they were playing against LGD's Lone Druid, they did pick the Slardar. Obviously, Amplify damage is fantastic against the Bear, because the Bear normally has extremely high armor. Come the mid-game, there's your entangle, and in comes the Slardar looking for a crush, perhaps. The towers, there will be a split push on both sides. Bottom lane, the Razors are going to fly out. Just cleared off the creep wave. Meanwhile, on the top lane, LGD doing a very similar thing. With that Warcry, you can just spam it, work on the tower, bring it down quickly. They haven't got a point in Liquid Fire yet, but do they need it? Look how fast that Undying is going to melt. 3 auto tech, and then the Tombstone killed off in 2. Ay, this is what I'm talking about with that off-lane Undying who doesn't get the early levels. It can work out against some tri-lanes. This is not one of them, though. This is a tri-lane with massive burst damage, massive chain stun, and reliable at that net. Net will come in top. He's level 5. That's pretty good. Can they get DDC? It looks like LGD may have overextended. Where's that entangle? Sylar needs an entangle. He manages not to block DDC, but won't find it. Now the Crush, but Sylar, no follow-up here. Sylar could maybe look to turn this one around. Regen's going to spawn top. Bear will hopefully be denying that regen. Oh, no, he's going to get it off. Here comes the Ice Path. Is going to miss. Now the chase onto DD. This Twin-Headed Dragon, all of LGD's supports, just really not in the best position. This is not where you want to be. Fortunately, he will be able to escape as currently Sprint is on cooldown. Aggression from MUFC. This is what they need to do. They can't sit back and let this turn into a 5v5 clash later on. Net will get caught. Net does pop the Spike Carapace, and oh god, I hope it's just me, but I lag out in the middle of it all. Not dropping frames, so I guess it's my connection to the server. Ay. More lag, just for me. Looks like the players were not affected. Twin-Headed Dragon and Leshrac both get picked off. Meanwhile, Nyx Assassin and Slardar do. So when it's all said and done, it was a 3 for 2. If you want to count that initial kill on the Undying when the chase began a good 45 seconds a minute ago. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with Ohaiyo just farming bottom. 64 CS. I wonder what he goes for this game. I feel it should be a Shadowblade game. This is a game where I'd like to see that build. We saw it out of Korok, I think, perhaps most notably in the Joint Dota Masters, where you just rush a really fast Shadowblade and you still farm a lot, but buying the early Shadowblade, it just allows you to start picking off supports. Now the issue is they don't have the towers down, which is what Korok had to work with in the Joint Dota Masters. Just got it off so quickly. And it makes life a lot more dangerous. LGD, they've got a bit better counter gank than that game. They do have the towers up as well, so we'll see. But I just don't think that MUFC can sit back and let this turn into a farm race. They're not going to win against the Sven, a lone Druid, a Darkseer. Once that Death Ball comes mid-game, they're in a lot of trouble. Here comes the Stormbolt, the Entangle. They need it, and they get it. And now they'll get the Slardar. Sad fish, I gotta say. I don't know if fish have emotions, but if they do, that fish is sad. He's blue. He is very blue. Now they go into DD on the top lane. DD is going to be brought down. Oy. Easy kill. Ling now steals Split Earth. Trying to turn this one around. Net gets caught. Split Earth on Split Earth. Oh, he whiffs it. Ling could have bailed out Net there, perhaps. Not able to do so. Shall wait. Pressuring past the tower. Leshrac will be the one to bring it down. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Glyph was wasted by LGD. It looks like Ohaiyo got the tower anyway. Or Glyph is just bugged. No, looks like he wasted it. Gold tipping the way of the Dire, but the real question is how's that experience graph doing? Still not too bad. The one concern for me is it's just so much invested right now into this Shadow Fiend. Slardar only has 29 CS, 2 deaths to his name. You look at these other heroes, Undying is the one I've been harping on, really needs a good start to do something in the mid game. He's not having it. Net, he's doing a bit better. He has hit level 6, so he's getting the levels. But is only really going to have enough mana to use his combo once. That's always the issue with Nyx Assassin when you play him as a support, is you need to somehow get a pair of Arcane Boots, either on him or on the other supports. Otherwise, you use your combo once, you go back to base, and if you don't find a kill, that's a ton of wasted time. Compared to a hero like the support Leshrac, like the support Jakiro, who are just constantly farming away and doing lots of pulls, lots of stacks. Oh, here's the Split Earth. but Xiaowei senses that he may have overextended. Ice Path is going to hit on Slaughter. Now the Tombstone gets dropped. Xiaowei trying to run away. Xiaowei just so damn tanky. Look at him, 20 armor, cannot bring him down. But here comes really the whole death ball split. Oh, nice Stormbolt there. Oh, but only catching one. Not quite enough. Ohaiyo is going for the early Shadow Blade. I love this item choice. Although they don't have the early towers down, this is what they need, is that constant aggression. He's got to hit these raises. One more auto tech, but the wand from Xiaowei is going to turn it around and allow him to live. What a wand. He really put the magic back in that wand, I got to say. We're waiting until that absolute last possible second. Of course, the other beauty of the LGD draft is Sven creates a little bit of pressure in the mid game. Suddenly, Sylar wasn't farming amazingly early on. Now he is getting quite a bit of farm. His turn is going to be bottom. They can go for Roche soon. He's almost got his Relic. This is going to be a really fast Relic, and it's largely because of the Tower Gold. And meanwhile, top lane, they do find a kill in the Darkseer. Darkseer not having the best game. He does have the Chainmail up. He'll be going for the mech. Again, for LGD, this is not going to be what we saw out of LGD International, where it was just like an 8-minute group up and push. This lineup has a much more delayed start time. They're going to look to get going around that 15-20 minute mark. Once they've got the mech up on the Darkseer, the Radiance on the Lone Druid, then they'll start to control the map, look to grab those incremental advantages like the Roshan, like the Aegis. And in the meantime, continue to farm your supports. Already level 5 on the Jakiro, Urn of Shadows picked up. It looked like a draft for LGD, which, well, was pretty balanced. I gotta say, I'm impressed by MUFC. Mainly for me, it's been Ohaiyo. Somehow finding the solo kill on the bottom lane against Darkseer. Sure, raises are pretty decent range, so sure, you can surge away. If you're not really clever with your jukes, Ohaiyo can still land them. But to find that early first blood, that's what's keeping them in this game. And I think if they're going to have a shot at this coming into the mid game, he's got to have a massive impact. In order to do so, he needs a BKB. It won't be a full solution. Even though there's a wall, even though there's a Sven and a Lone Druid and Tangle, all of this stuff that makes BKB not ideal, you still need one. Without a BKB, you're going to be absolutely useless against this lineup. In comes Sven, angry Sven. Nordic van out for blood. In comes the Slardar as well. They're going to pick off the Sven to start this fight off. Now Yao surging away. They need a crush. They should be able to get one momentarily. The Courier's going to join the fight. Crush on two. Oh, they don't even have the Shadow Feed. Apparently, they don't need him. They're all getting picked off one at a time. Sylar is farming on the bottom lane meanwhile, but MUFC just finding so many kills. LGD really overextended, just trying to die for that one. You saw Xiaowei charging in towards the enemy tower, then forced to run away. And when Sven is in auto-attacking, he is not nearly as scary as he normally is. Ohaiyo wants to solo kill Sylar. You know he does. But he also knows Sylar's got that he's got that entangle luck. He's not going to chance it. Of course, as mentioned, the Relic up on Sylar had this probably before the 13-minute mark, so it is going to be a very fast Radiance for him. And then you have to ask, how does MUFC, how well can they deal with the split push? And I think the answer is reasonably well, mainly because of Ohaiyo. Uh-oh. In they go. They will apply the amplify damage on the Sylar. He's dropping low. Another raise. Ohaiyo has been perfect so far. Unfortunately, Slardar gets caught out, gets picked off, but they delay that Lone Druid Radiance. Definitely worth it. Slardar going for what looks to be a Vanguard. Really not a fan of this build. BKB to me is mandatory this game. Vanguard isn't bad per se. It's just got such a small window where it makes a big impact. And to me, he's not really farming fast enough where it's worth it. I'd rather just see the Ogre X. If you need regen, maybe fair yourself a salve or two. You can't just sit on a casual Arena of Health. But to complete a Vanguard means that you've invested over half of the cost of a BKB in, well, an item that doesn't give you magic immunity. Sure, it gives you a little bit more HP, but not overwhelmingly so. And in this game, you really need a BKB. As I was mentioning earlier, Ice Path, Split Earth. Of course, there's Ion Shell. There's going to be Radiance Burn. There's a Shrek. And Sven Stormbolt as well. There's too many reliable stuns to skip a BKB, even though it doesn't resolve your issues against everything else. It's been the Ohaiyo show so far. He continues to lead the way in farm by quite a bit. 40 CS. Are they stacking for the Sven? They are starting to stack. You heard Bulba making some pointed remarks about how he feels about the stacks. Not a big fan of it. And it's not something we've seen as much of in Chinese Dota the past couple months. Oh, Xiaowei gonna get caught. Net finding the pickoffs, or will he vacuum onto two? Now turning around Stormbolt on two, Ice Path on two. Gonna be a Split Earth on two, everything, and doubles. a Shadow Fiend Death Requiem does manage to kill off this fan, but slowing down ohaiyo. Whenever you kill off a hero like Shadow Fiend, especially at this kind of a start, he's not split pushing. You don't have to worry about those Shadow Blade ganks. That's why we're seeing these sentry wards placed all around the map. They're very concerned about Shadow Fiend, as well as the lane wards, just to try and make sure he doesn't jump them, doesn't sneak up invis. Of course, there is an Nyx assassin as well. But when they get that kill, he's not farming, and he's not a threat to come gank. But this is the tax that early Shadow Blade puts on the enemy supports. LGD with the early towers. I don't think they'll be too fussed about it, but still, as long as you're forcing them to buy those sentries, it's a little bit less gold. It's not going towards the mech, not going towards the Force Staff, and that's really what LGD is all about as a lineup. They want the early mech. You can already see they're getting the cheaper version of it in the Urn of Shadows. Just something to help them sustain the pushes, to reward them for having a couple of kills here and there. Now the push begins to come a little bit faster, a little bit stronger. That's going to charge in. Where's that sentry? They were so prepared mid. Oh, what an impale on 3. Unbelievable. 3-man impale from Net. His support has been sensational. Xiaowei now trying to run away. Crush is going to whiff. Doesn't matter. DDC is dropping low. And now they're going to look to figure it out. Another ohaiyo is absolutely out of control and out of his mind. Xiaowei trying to hope it out of here. That is 4 heroes dead. And I was just commenting on how good LGD has been playing with their sentry wards in the lane wards, but they didn't have one when they were trying to push the tower. That was an absolutely massive blunder. The 3-man impale completely set that up. MUFC playing great, and LGD making a few slight mistakes. The early Shadow Blade from ohaiyo, as well as the Nyx Assassin pick, showing that if you don't pick a lineup that can reveal invis, you can be punished severely for it. Or not if you don't pick a lineup, but if you don't buy items to counter. And it's just one extra thing to have to worry about. Now they have to deal with a... Sure, it's not a BKB, but it is a Vanguard up on the Sylar. A pretty big fight for MUFC. I still feel LGD in a very decent position, despite that bad fight. You see the gold graph is going way up, so it looks bad for them. But remember, they've got the crazy team fight. They've got tons of plus armor come mid-game. They have a lone druid who should be completing his Radiance fairly soon. And they have some answers for the BKBs. That's the other thing. It's MUFC. They need BKBs on the Sylar, on the Shadow Fiend in the mid-game, but they're not at full answer. There's still Entangle to worry about. There's still the wall to worry about from the Dark Seer. But LGD just have to be careful not to get picked off anymore. If they get picked off a few more times, suddenly they're losing the Tier 1 mid. The Tier 2s might start to be pressured a little bit, and that's where things get really dicey. Of course, this is only game 1, so however this game turns out, the winner and the loser both have at least one more ahead of them. It is a best out of 3. The winner will be moving on to face LGD International. Not right after the match, necessarily. It could be, but a little bit later today, but it will happen today. And they go bottom lane. Net's going to lead the way once again. They start on Sylar. Sylar taking a lot of damage. Look at that chain stun. Ling has stolen the Stormbolt. They burst him down to get a gem on the floor, but it's a 3-man. Oh, goodness gracious me. Mamma mia, 3-man Stormbolt, and that is just devastation. That is the crazy team fight, but here comes ohaiyo. Kills one instantly with the Requiem from full HP. What a turnaround. That is potentially enough. It's going to be a man fight between the Black Shadow and the red angry Scandinavian fella. Now he's going to look to run away. BKB was used by Xiaowei, so 10-second BKB charge down the drain. BKB is available, and ohaiyo has not actually purchased it yet. Oh, man, what a Requiem. ohaiyo has been... This is one of the hardest working carry players. If you just watch how many times a day he plays pubs, he scrims, this guy plays more than almost anyone else, especially in Southeast Asia, especially in these top teams like Orange MUFC. And he's been improving over the past couple months. I'm really impressed by his Shadow Fiend. Mostly what we've seen out of him recently is Rubik. And obviously Rubik is... it's a hero that you can make some huge plays on, but it doesn't have that same snowball potential as far as the carry goes. I'm excited to see this diversity from ohaiyo. It's something I've seen him play Shadow Fiend before, but never quite like this. And LGD, well, they get a decent trade. I gotta say, overall, they should be fairly happy with that fight. Just getting a couple of kills. Xiaowei having his BKB, now working towards that next item. Sylar. I actually have no idea who bought the gem or who lost it. I think it was someone... This is where you'd love to have a co-caster, but what can you do? I think it was someone on LGD who bought it, immediately lost it, and then they picked it back up. Meanwhile, it looks like a tower trade mid-tier 1 for bottom-tier 1. MUFC will be happy with this if they can get it. There is a glyph available. Does LGD really want to defend this? I don't think they should bother. They're not going to. Holding on to this game. Or holding on to that glyph for now. Here comes the push middle lane. Shao8 leads the way for his team. The one concern is the lone druid, Sylar, had such a strong start in the... I mean, not the most farm, but still was going to on track to have a 14-50 minute race. We'll talk about it later because here we go to DDC. The Shadow Blade from Ohio. He is just massacring everyone on the enemy team, and nobody can stand against him, not even Shao8. Wow, he is playing incredibly well. Crush onto DD. LGD crumbling before our eyes. After a decent start in the laning stage, just self-destructing, and MUFC also played incredibly well, just finding the pickoffs, understanding that their lineup didn't want to go to that 30-35 minute mark even. They wanted to push the advantage with the early Shadow Blade on Ohio, with just getting the quick Vanguard on the Slardar. Just whatever you can build now to be a little bit more aggressive. And they're finding those openings. Still, I think the real turning point in this game, we have to go back to net with the 3-man Impale where there weren't sentries to see him coming in. That, for me, is where LGD, where it was a pretty even game. Sure, they made a few mistakes, but that's where it really all started to turn. I think they even lost the gem net. No, they didn't. Sylar was the one carrying it, and, well, he survived, so that's something. Radiance is up on the bear. All is definitely not lost for LGD, but another big fight going the way of MUFC. And now Shadow Fiend, he's got his sort of map control item and the Shadow Blade. He's got his BKB to allow him to just charge in to the middle of the fight. Now he can start to go for a damage item, for something that's going to help him split push, for something a little bit sexier, basically, than the items he has so far. I love the data list just going for that one-shot crit kind of style. Just assassinate supports coming out of Shadow Blade. They're going to initiate on Slardar. I don't like diving for this hero, but we'll see if they can pull it off. Undying is going to try and drop the tombstone. Ling dropping low. The bear burning him down. Will the bear give chase? No, it won't. In comes the wall. The Requiem does nothing. Now Shao8 chopping away at Ohio. Ohio dropping low. Ohio will probably fall to this. Even with his great start, he still can't stand against that kind of physical damage. But maybe it doesn't matter. They turn the fight around. The bear not really doing enough. 4 heroes dead, and now Sylar trying to run away. We'll just gladly pick off one. Can Sylar get a triple out of this? No, the bear will fall. The chase continues, but I think it's pretty much over at this point. So, Shadow Fiend does actually buy back after giving up, what was it, a 700 gold bounty? So he loses quite a chunk of gold, probably around 1,000 off of that, but still sitting at 2,000. Still going to be pretty happy with this position in the game, and still 3k net worth, 2.5k net worth or so ahead of anybody on the side of LGD. Ohio is playing very manly this game, I gotta say, for all the talk of Sven being overpowered and broken. We heard it on ldDOTA, we've heard it on, well, in quite a few quarters for many pro players in different regions, different teams, but we're seeing Sven lose games. We saw him lose games in the G1 League, we saw him lose games at DreamHack. He may be strong, he's certainly a worthwhile pick, but he has his weaknesses. He is a melee carry. He's got to be next to you to do the damage. He doesn't have the ability to sort of siege away at enemy towers or supports quite as safely. Obviously, he's very reliant on that BKB. He's got to spend time getting next to you, so there are some weaknesses. We're seeing them exposed, but mainly this is just coming down to MUFC really outplaying LGD. Having better initiations, getting the jump on them. Net just continues to be such a nuisance, constantly roaming around the map, looking to set up kills. He's going to find another on SC. I believe he should be able to get this with the urn. Maybe not. And the Spike Carapace. Oh, what a play by him. Waits until the perfect moment to pick that up. Might pay, but even if he does, to me this is worth it. You're trading 1 for 1. Well, he actually is level 14. Maybe it's not quite worth it. Yeah, a bit high level to be trading that kill. So, no, not quite worth it, but even though he's not really trading perfectly there, just look at how LGD are forced to react to the state of this game. They're 5-manning around the map. They're not actually farming. Often what we see out of LGD, what we saw from them in the G1 finals is when they were on the Radiant side, they had Enigma farming this camp, they had a tri-lane bottom, and then they had a Batrider farming these camps. So they were all sort of in the same area of the map. but they were still split farming. In this situation, they're trying to, but they're really not able to get as much as they would like. And that goes back to the Nyx Assassin. It goes back to the early Shadow Blade on Shadow Fiend. Sure, Shadow Blade's not going to be a great 5v5 item on paper, unless you can find pickoffs. As just a, you know, just when you do the math for the item, sure, it gives you actually pretty cost-effective damage, chasing power. It's sort of like a Yasha in that sense. Of course, it gives you the invisibility as well, and a bit more burst damage for a greater cost. But obviously, for that 3k gold, you could be working towards something that's going to have more of an impact in a team fight, like a Manta. But it's such a good map control item if you get it up early, and it's not just the fact that he got it, but it's the fact that the team had a couple of great fights along with it. It puts them in a nice position now. Net not going to start with the auto attack from Vendetta, just going to go straight in for the Impale. Now Xiaowei going to BKB and look to walk away. What was stolen? Oh, it was Warcry. Oh, this is a big spell to steal from Ling. Honestly, I can't think of a better spell. I think maybe Ice Path. I would take this Warcry over almost anything else, especially right now for MUFC, because they're up against primarily physical damage. A Lone Druid going for an Assault Cuirass, a Sven, who's got up to 2k gold, obviously a physical damage dealer. Stealing Warcry is just a massive boon for this team, and another way to deal with the power of Sven. Just use it, turn it against the enemy team. So, game one turning out to be pretty entertaining, I gotta say. A bit of a chess match. Both teams using really very different styles. Sure, a lot of kills being traded, but just an interesting clash in decision-making, item selections. LGD put into a situation, we've seen them here before. We saw this in the International too, even. One of their most difficult matches, they fell behind early, but they did turn around. Courier will be assassinated by Ohaiyo. What a play. Once again, Net is going to start the fight off. Will it be enough, though? Here comes the BKB Requiem from Ohaiyo doing a lot of damage. Ice Path is going to just melt him. Oh, man, that is one angry Nord. Now Xiaowei turning on, and this is, you know, this is sort of the weakness of the Shadow Fiend. This is what I was talking about when I said, even though LGD are behind, they're not out of this game. They can turn the fights around. They do have the better 5v5 composition. They've got the chain stun. And just in terms of raw physical damage output, Sven is not going to be... Sven, as well as Lone Druid, is not going to be handled by a hero like Shadow Fiend by himself. He needs help. It looked like a good initiation from the Nyx Assassin, but they really need the starter to get a BKB. This is, you know, again, going for the early Vanguard. Great for around that, you know, 15 to 25 minute mark. But now he'd much rather have a BKB than the Vanguard. And without it, he's just so vulnerable to chain stun. Sure, you charge in, you're a bit beefier. But they have so many stuns. They don't mind throwing 4 stuns at you because they'll kill you, and if anyone tries to help you or fight, you also get stunned. You walk into the wall. So it's not like you have to blow a stun on him and you're not stunning anybody else. With Ice Path, with Stormbolt, you're stunning everybody and his mother, his father, his sister, and brother. He just won't be picked up by Sylar, and LGD, of course, with that dire advantage, going to quickly claim it for their own. Now Net forced to run away. Yao giving chase. I don't think we're going to see a full clash. Eagle Horn picked up for Ohaiyo. I suppose it'll be a butterfly. Not a bad game to get one. There's no real natural hex carrier on the side of LGD, so we'll have that evasion to work with. The problem is, it just comes down to rolling the dice at that point. Sure, it sounds nice, but there's still a lot of nukes. The BKB is now down to 7 seconds. Soon it'll be down to 5. And then you got to worry about, can you actually just win the fight for your team during that BKB? Because if not, you're losing the fight. If you don't have that BKB up once the fight is once the initial engagement is over, LGD are going to win in a 5v5 clash. Shadow Fiend definitely more reliant on the BKB. He doesn't have lifesteal at this point. He doesn't have the sustainability coming out from Darkseer, who can always surge him away to safety. Just the support of AoE chain stuns. And sure, MUFC have some good AoE stuns. They've got Nyx Assassin, they've got Slardar, but especially the Slardar, this is a pretty small AoE stun. This is something where you have to be right next to the enemy team to get it off. Of course, you always have to worry about getting entangled. They can run away with Warcry. It's not something like Ice Path, which is long range. It's not something like Stormbolt, which is targeted. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. This game is... Oh, Net gonna be chased. That creep was really bringing him low. Well, as far as gold goes, we have stabilized. It is still a bit of a lead for the Radiant, leading by about 2,500. As far as experience goes, leading by about 4,000. They are leading, but again, this is a game where MUFC really need to be ahead. They can't afford to be even. You're up against Darkseer, who's however strong you get, the enemy team gets equally strong. You're up against really the better late game in the Lone Druid and the Sven. The better team fight AoE in terms of chain stun. MUFC, they picked a lineup which was mid-game dominance focused. Even though they're up 10 kills, LGD showing that they're a team that knows how to roll with the punches. They may lose a couple fights, they may take a few blows to the face, they may have a bloody nose, but at the end of the day, these guys they're not going to roll over and die just because you win a few fights against them. And we go with the backstab opportunity for Slaughter. He pops the BKB. He now crushes Xiao. Xiao chain stun held in place, and without his BKB, he drops very quickly. What a fight from MUFC. Xiao really not expecting that. He'll buy back. Now Yao being chased with the minus armor from Slaughter. He's dropping fast, but Ice Path is here, and Ice Path might be enough to turn this fight around. Now the entangle on the Lone Druid. In comes the Sven, trying to rejoin the fight. The Bear still burning everyone down, really limiting the chasing power. Sylar on the front lines. Remember, he's got the Aegis. You really don't want to focus him. You also don't want to ignore him. Xiao fighting on his own, not fighting with the team, losing a ton of mana off the bat. It is will be Undying, the next one to fall in this fight.
This is exciting.
Xiao not really playing 100% with his team. I wonder what the communication's like. Of course, he was just sleepy before this match. Maybe he's a little bit tired. We're not sure. But in comes the stun on Danet, of course. Just such a nuisance to initiate on this here with Spike Carapace. Doesn't matter, though. Xiao with one swipe. Oh, he actually gets killed off. That Mask of Madness is a double-edged sword. This is why you see some pros prefer to get the armlet first. I know ldOTA rushes the armlet most of the time for no Tidehunter. The Mask of Madness, fantastic if they're forced to run from you, but when Shadow Fiend's already got a BKB, I don't really like the Mask of Madness choice. Even with your BKB, you're still taking that bonus damage. They have so much physical damage with Amplify, with Presence of the Dark Lord, and with the auto attacks. Now the Butterfly up on Ohaiyo. This is basically turning yourself into a glass cannon. You don't really need move speed. You've already got Surge to keep you in close. To me, this is not the right item choice. And, you know, sure, it's standard on Sven, but in this particular game, just very, very risky. Still, again, it's not all up to Xiao. He can afford to make a few mistakes because the team isn't built around him as a pure one-position Sven. They've got the great team fight. They've, of course, got the Lone Druid on Sylar, and I think he's just about got his Assault Cuirass, but we'll have to check later because DD is about to get caught out. He's thrown up in the air. Now the BKB popped out from Sven. Wow, even DDC's got a BKB. Somebody's been farming. Yeah, Assault Cuirass is up on the Lone Druid. Goldgraph continues to keep a pretty reasonable, a healthy separation of 2,500 as far as experience goes. Pretty much the same thing. Oh, man. You know, of course, poor Bulbo wanted to cast some awesome games today. Casts the two, like, incredibly one-sided 10, 15-minute games. Then the most interesting game today, as far as just, you know, really back and forth, pretty well played, and real clash in styles between these teams. Well, he had to go to sleep, so poor guy. Hopefully we'll get him in for some better games tomorrow. Of course, Sylar sitting on 2,700 gold. Eventually, he's going to get so big that I don't know how MUFC deal with him. Shadow Fiend does start to peak off, especially when you go for items like Shadow Blade and BKB. I loved the item pickups. I thought they had the perfect selection for this game, for this lineup. Again, a lineup that needs to dominate the mid game. But the downside is, when you buy BKB early, it's not as good for you later on. Whereas if you bought something else earlier, like a Manta went back for the BKB, when you completed it at this point in the game, it'd have that 10-second charge. Again, Shadow Blade, a great item, but it's mostly about getting those pickoffs. It's not going to help you run away when the enemy team's got a gem on their Lone Druid with an Aegis. Because of that gem, because he's so damn tanky and obnoxious, you're not going to be able to run away from him. And also, he's going for an MKB now. It is going to be a gank from MUFC. They sense that they got to make something happen soon. In comes the Lone Druid Bear. It's burning everybody. And now it will get ganked, but this could be a huge mistake to use so much on the Bear. Or will it? And it's the BKB. We need a big crush. He catches two. He could have had 3 or 4, I feel. Ling jumps in as well. DD getting focused down. Sven going man mode, but Ohaiyo is actually killing him off. The Bear working on Ohaiyo. Gets the entangle, but the Bear being focused. Look at that Bear just melt. And Ohaiyo getting tons of evasion in this fight. DD almost being thrown up on the cliff, being brought down. It looked like maybe a bad fight, but killing off that Bear turned out to be perfect. Yao gonna die to the Urn Charge, I believe. No, gonna live with 20. 20 HP. Ling still diving the base, and MUFC is fighting into a lone druid with an Aegis. I say into a lone druid with an Aegis. It's now gone. And winning! They're taking the fight to LGD. They start the fight off with the bear gank. The bear
top tower has fallen.
Was resummoned, and the bear is dead again. Oh no. Sylar's not going to have the bear for a good 80 seconds. This might be Rax. MUFC may just be able to push this one over the hump. And take a lane of Rax, and taking a lane of Rax this early is going to be... I say early against the Darkseer. Anytime before like 50 minutes is generally pretty early. This is potentially breaking the game open for them. Still haven't seized a victory yet. The tombstone is down though. Sylar waiting for that bear to respawn. They can't fight this without the bear. I think they've got to let this lane drop. In fact, can they even defend the second lane of Rax? Probably, especially with Sven being alive. Ohaiyo goes invis with Shadow Blade. It's just going to clean up the melee Rax, then skate away. MUFC showing some real discipline in these fights. And now Slardar gets close to that Assault Cuirass. Presence of the Dark Lord, Assault Cuirass, and Amplify damage. That's a lot of Midas Armor. That is one way to try and deal with Warcry as well as Assault Cuirass. It certainly makes Fen feel a little bit squishier, as, again, does the Mask of Madness. Ohaiyo now getting... Oh, he's almost got a Daedalus. Look at this farm. Sylar's lone druid. It's not often you see him get out-farmed this badly. Ohaiyo is real tour de force from him today, I gotta say. However this game turns out, he's already played incredibly well. Finding a solo kill on Darkseer without any support, that's I guess that's the definition of a solo kill, but that's really impressive. Now he's getting close to a Daedalus, and once he has the Daedalus, he can pretty much just instantly kill the bear off. And that's the concern for LGD. As this game goes later, how much does that bear really do with items? And you can't really just give them to the lone druid hero because he's going to get kited. There's bash, there's amplify damage. He doesn't have a BKB, so it's, you know, it's not like the Sven where you can just charge in and pray to God that he doesn't get bashed. He's pretty much guaranteed to be screwed. I feel in an even game, LGD would be absolutely fine at this point, but because the MUFC have just found so many great openings on the backs of these Invis heroes, on this Nyx Assassin play, on the early Shadow Blade. Oh, shall we? Not what we're used to seeing from him. He's going to get caught out bottom lane and now brought down very, very quickly. Oh, boy. That was not in the script. Director 8, perhaps being a bit flummoxed. Someone performed a bit of a switcheroo on him. Lane City in the pit. Roshan about to respawn. That's the big difference between this game. If anyone didn't watch that G1 League game, the 90-minute game between LGD and DK, I believe it was, I highly recommend you go back and watch it. The big thing about that game was sort of the one-position hero for DK. They had Burning on Slaughter, but that wasn't their main farmer. They had a Super Queen of Pain. That was the main damage there. But this is a Shadow Fiend who, as far as killing the lone druid bear goes, is just way better at it. Does way more physical damage. And that's really what you need against the bear. And now he's got an Aegis, he's got the Daedalus up. He's next to go for lifesteal. And after that, you're pretty much immortal. I mean, even an Eye of Skady would be fantastic. Just getting that slow. Of course, man style always nice. Whatever he wants to go for, it's going to be pretty great. Look how fast the bear's going to die. It's like 5 auto attacks. Oy, oy, oy. And now Ohaiyo, the siege engine, just mauling those towers down. In fact, it's going to come down to Yao. It's got to come down to a massive wall. He's got to go Scepter, but one big Shadow Blade crit could spell doom. One big Slither and Crush amplify damage into just a regular auto attack could spell doom. He's got to be very, very careful about his positioning. You would love to have that 1437 Blink Dagger right now. Well, MUFC just in such a good position. Pipe mech up on the Undyne. Haven't had a whole lot of time to check items this game. We are 58 minutes in, but there you go. Obviously, we talked about the Shadow Fiend's items. BKB is up on Leshrac. It's been up for a long time. I think I mentioned that about 10, 12 minutes ago. That doesn't matter against the Shadow Fiend. In fact, it does nothing for you. Frankly, I feel Mass Ghost Scepter would possibly, or Mass Force Step might have been the way to go, but I'm not sure these supports items, they can sometimes make a big difference. Maybe a Scythe of Ice, but realistically, you can't count on farming that as a supportless track at 25 minutes, starting to build towards that, walking around with a lot less HP. It's just when we sit here now, we look at a BKB up against Amplify Damage, up against a Shadow Fiend that's critting for 4 digits. Well, it's not doing a whole lot for you. Of course, this is game number 1. Can you believe it? It is. It is only game 1. It is a best out of 3. I think a lot of people were expecting to see LGD China versus LGD International after the results of our earlier series versus Orange, where LGD International just kind of had their way with them, to be rather blunt about it. LGD China coming into this tournament didn't have the best results at WCG China, or the WCG Grand Finals rather. Since the only real good result would have been to just win the tournament, since Tong Fu was the only major threat in the event for Dota 1, but that was Dota 1. In Dota 2, they haven't really showed much weakness. Perhaps all the Dota 1 practice, however much they did going into that event, which, from what I understand, was some, not a ton. Maybe that's a little bit of rust to be shaken off. Whatever the case is, MUFC, you got to give them a lot of credit, because they are just playing really well. And in fact, ohaiyo wants to go for a bit of an assassination here in Xiao 8. Here comes Net with that stun. Look at the auto attack damage, whatever the hell the word that you want to use is. Just one stun. And normally you want to see a Nyx Assassin start off with the auto attack, coming out of Vendetta, giving you that extra burst. But at this point in the game, your Shadow Fiend hits so hard, you just need to secure the stun, and it's a kill. The BKB won't save him. By the way, that was the Sven. That was the Sven with Warcry. Oh, BKB's being popped left, right, and center. There's the wall getting dropped as well. In comes the Shadow Fiend. It's a drive-by from ohaiyo. Strutting his stuff. Mauling away at Sylar. GG's in the middle of a 5v5 clash. They all fall down in a matter of seconds. And MUFC showing some very impressive form. Not having Ken on the roster, of course. X-Freedom standing in as that suicide lane Undying. For me, this was Net and ohaiyo. Above all else, these two players really delivered here today. Net just played incredible. Again, go back to that earlier engagement. 3-man, I think it might have been more like here, but a 3-man Impale coming out of Vendetta. That, for me, not won them the game, but that turned the tides of this game. It was a game where LGD were getting their core items up, starting to be able to push. It was a game where I was lagging like a champ. I'm just trying to get this final scoreboard. Oh my goodness. I'm not dropping any frames, guys, so this is not my internet lagging, it's my connection to the server, or the server itself not being too reliable. Not sure what it is, but good news is, only happened once during the game. It's almost like I'm in cahoots with Valve. Oh man, game 1 goes the way of MUFC. LGD not showing the top form that we saw at the G1 League Finals. And Sven proving to be mortal. Sylar's Lone Druid proving to be mortal. I am getting a seizure from these screen stuttering. Holy crap. Oh boy. Alright guys, that wraps it up for game number 1. MUFC take it. They are leading LGD 1-0. This is your GEST Dota 2 challenge. If you enjoy my casting, more importantly, these teams, these Asian games, be sure to subscribe to Beyond the Summit. It supports us. It goes a long way. Your small contributions make a big difference. Only $5 a month. You get a nice icon. You get access to spam the LGD face in the chat, which, by the way, looks pretty badass, I gotta say. We'll be adding more teams and more fun stuff over the next couple of weeks. Or just turn off ad block. Either way, it goes a long way to support us. Of course, follow me, support me, Facebook, Twitter.com/ldDOTA. All of today's games will be up on YouTube. And we do have a new YouTube channel, youtube.com/beyondthesummit.tv. If you're not already subscribed, which I know, well, most people aren't, you should be, because we will be uploading certain VODs exclusively there. We're not going to play favorites. Some VODs will go to our personal channels, myself, as well as godz. Some will go to that channel. So make sure you subscribe to all of them to catch all the games that you miss. Anyway, this was game number 1. Game number 2 coming up soon. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and stay tuned. We'll be back in a jiffy.